The Best Friend Files are on the mother case.
We're on it. Robert Shin, fuck you. Put a scripture up, Robert. Let's hear it. Call me directly. 716. Just kidding. Welcome back to the Best Friend Files. I'm Jen. That's Bridget. She's right there.
Hi.
Or there. I don't know which way.
There.
If it worked or not. She's all around. Today, Bridget, I'm going to tell you the tale of the 7M cult, which, I mean, if you've joined one cult, you've joined them all, you know?
I feel like I have seen like little, I don't know anything about this. So we're learning together today, me and our listeners. And also I feel like I have seen, is there like maybe a Netflix documentary about this? I feel like there's a documentary floating around out there about this that I may have seen. Like the ads for.
It is called Dancing for the Devil.
Yes, of course.
Spoiler alert, it's not a friendly cult.
Nothing like a good dance with the devil.
So, in hang on. Oh, this die to yourself shit. Okay, in the 90s, I want to say 99. I'm looking for the year though. Yeah, 1999. So there's these sisters, Priscilla and Melanie Lee. They're Korean immigrants. Their dad, so they're in Korea. Their dad basically just left the family, and then their mom was an alcoholic. So she moves with them to the U.S. and still an alcoholic. Priscilla is basically raising Melanie, but they're both children. They're like, 13, 14 years old. And they come to meet Robert Shin and his sister, and Robert Shin and his family and his sister and her family start this church called the Shekinah Church, which is still a church to this second.
Shekinah.
And Shekinah, which just reminds me of 90 Day Fiance, because she's the butter-eating half of one of my favorite couples.
My butter-eating girl.
So they join the Shekinah Church, and basically Robert's like, move into our house. We're going to give you all the love that you've never had. And she's like, this is amazing. He's a father figure. All the things. This man opens up 2 mortgage companies, a flower shop, and then 2 other companies. What were they? I'm looking for it. But basically, the 15 members of this church are the employees of all of his businesses. And they make absolute dog shit. Like, he pays them, oh, here it is. There were 15 people. He had a cafe, 2 mortgage companies, 2 real estate companies, and 2 flower shops. And so... Interesting,
like, diversification, but okay.
Yeah, he's putting the feelers out. And so Lee, who's Melanie, one of the sisters, she says that all the employees were Shekinah church members, and there's like 15 at the time, and they're paid $100 a week for working 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. 7 days a week. So he's keeping all of it. And so basically, when he starts trying to go into more ventures, he tries like acting, he tries to become a producer, none of it works. So then it sort of just falls into his lap that one of the members of the church who's existing is friends with these really popular TikTok dancers. And so I'm going to try to find the names of these 7M dancers, but they're basically like, if you've seen the dancing on TikTok or Instagram where they're dancing to like the Temptations, or like it's like 70s, 60s music, and they're wearing suits, and it's kind of like, it's different because the brand isn't like hip hop music, it's like disco songs. It's the Bee Gees.
Okay.
Oh, you can tell by the way. You know what I'm talking about? But they're like doing modern dance, choreographed dances. So he gets all these dancers together and he forms the 7M Management Company, which is for dancers, but also he's still the pastor of this church.
Okay.
So, this is going to be his new cash cow, because basically what this guy is doing is making money off these businesses, keeping people under his thumb with the church, and then everybody is donating to the church because it's, of course, heavily persuaded that you give 30% of your earnings to this church. And so the dancers are like going through what they pay, and just in church alone, there's a 10% man of God tax, a 10% tithing tax, and another 10% tax like to the church. But really, all those places are going to Robert Shin. Like,
so 30% off the top this guy's taken.
Off the top. Plus, there's a 20% management fee to 7M.
So 50%.
Also Robert.
Okay.
Yes. Plus, you're encouraged to give more. Because if you really care about the church, you wouldn't just give the bare minimum, would you?
Per cult
No, it's
standards,
crazy.
of course. You have to give it all.
So these dancers are giving 70% of their earnings. Ironically enough, it was his idea. So all these kids are like reading, they're all in a vulnerable place. Like they're interviewing a few different people that are these TikTok dancers, and they're talking about like, I just moved to LA, I want to make it, like this is my dream. You find this man who's like, come stay in my wealthy house. Look at all my rich cars. Look how well dressed everyone is. You can stay in my house over here and just pay me $2,200 a month. And it's like a reasonable amount. And they read the Bible at dinner. But like, they're doing these Bible studies for like an hour, and then all of a sudden it's 4 hours. And a common practice of cults is like exhaustion and repetition.
Makes
so,
sense.
You're sitting at a table with this guy for 4 hours reading the
After
Bible.
you've already given him 50% of anything that you've made. Like,
Yes. You're like, please indoctrinate me. So they're talking about like, he comes up with this idea where he's picking the music and it's the Bee Gees, and we're like, this is so whack. Like, it sucks. And then they're like, we actually got a lot of attention for it. It did become like a thing. And so they had like a couple commercials. They did the Ellen Show. And as these dancers get these deals, commercials, whatever.
which, wait,
Of course.
I don't mean to interrupt you here, but like,
Please.
I'm not surprised that they were on the Ellen Show, because somehow, like, I feel like Ellen is going to end up being one of the most satanic masters of Hollywood. I don't care. It's very interesting that somehow...
You heard, like, everyone said she's so mean.
Well, yeah, everybody says she's so mean. Everyone's saying that that's one of the reasons she's fleeing the country is because of her involvement with all the Diddy stuff. Like, she's been involved with everyone that has been, like, canceled or, like legitimately canceled. So,
Yeah.
just very interesting that, of course, Ellen gave these people a national platform. Not surprised.
Yes. No. And, like, the one guy talks about him first meeting Robert, and Robert's like, do you go to church? And he's like, no, I want to get back into it, but like, these are 20-somethings. They've just moved out of their home. They're trying to make it. And he's like, well, I used to go with my family, but I haven't gotten back into it. And he's like, he opens up the Bible and he asks me to read a passage from Revelations, which, like, quick pause. Revelations is literally the end of days. It is the most volatile, supernaturally terrifying,
Dramatic, like,
chapter
yeah.
in the Bible. And it basically was something along the lines of like, you're basically like, you're half in, and people who are half in and like somewhat faithful are basically like dead or like sinners or like, some dramatic thing. And he's like, you're sinning, like you're this. And he's like, ooh, and it's like mind blowing. He's like, look at this guy who wants to help. He's such a visionary, all this shit. So by the time he's got these 7M dancers, Priscilla and Melanie Lee so Melanie talks about leaving. This was after maybe like 7 to 10 years with Robert. There comes a point where Robert starts trying to make sexual advances, and Melanie's like, I'm out of here.
Wait, and this is 7 to 10 years of them working like 12-hour shifts, you said? Like they work from 7 a.m. to like 7 p.m. and give him 50% of their...
Yeah. So this is like late 90s, early 2000s.
So this girl is on the brink of insanity.
Priscilla. Yeah, Priscilla's like, I have to get out of here. And then she goes to pick up Priscilla, and Priscilla's like, I can't leave. I can't do it. And it's like her sister. And so she's like, I knew like I wasn't going to see her for so long after that because I know the grip that Robert has on people. This girl, Priscilla, stays another 10 years and ends up becoming a literal sex slave. He starts to convince her that just like David in the Bible, he is entitled a mistress.
Okay. Interesting interpretation.
She is going to be his mistress. And it turns into where, because Melanie left, Priscilla now has to atone for the sins of Melanie leaving. If she wants to save her sister.
Ah, yes. Her soul and her sister's.
Yes. She needs to fulfill the word of God by doing whatever Robert says. It starts with massages, and then he's like, massage my thigh, higher, higher, higher.
Why does it always start with a massage? Jeffrey Epstein?
He's old. He's got AIDS.
Like...
I get it. See,
I mean, and yes, like, yes, does that usually where massages lead in an intimate relationship? Yes. But that's, you know...
Robert's married. He is married. She has children.
God, stop ruining the massages.
She describes living in a single room for 10 years. And basically he just comes in whenever he wants. She does whatever he wants. And he leaves. And she's like, I was so depressed. Like, all I kept telling myself was, I just have to not kill myself and live this way until the rest of my life. And then my sister will be saved from Satan. And he's like, she describes that Robert tells them what hell is like, and he's like, it's everything you've done to people, but you go through it over and over again. So it's basically like your skin would be like ripped off, burned off, and you'd like feel all that pain, and then it would be put back on, and then it would happen again, and again, and again, and again. Like he goes through...
Like whose skin did you rip off, though, for that to be your punishment? Like...
It's like the equivalent pain or something. But like basically just says he described like hell so detailed that she's like, it was my number one fear. It was the only thing like I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
So she's like, I just gotta stay in this room. And she said she blew up all these pictures of like just scripture, and they were all over the walls. And so one day Robert's wife comes in, and she's like, busts the door open and is like, this is my house, this is my room, this is my husband, like all this stuff. And then Robert comes in behind her. I think she got like assaulted by this woman, and Robert comes in and is like, she's right, my wife is totally right in everything that she's doing and saying. She has every right to be upset with you. You need to honor this, blah blah blah. And so she takes advantage of that to leave. And she describes Robert's wife like ripping all the papers down, and she's like, I took a picture, and in the picture you can see like every inch of these walls is covered in printed out, blown up words from the Bible that are just like the worst combination of things. It basically just looks like self-hate all over the walls.
Yeah. And that's what she put that there, or he put that there?
She put it there to motivate herself to stay because she needs to be purified. And she was like talking about how she was getting physically ill from sleeping with him. Acid reflux, like digestive issues, night terrors. And he's like, well, that's your body's purging sin. So she's like, so then I'm like, wow, I need to purge so much more. I just need to be more purified, more purified, more purified.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Robert's...
Well, if you're believing that hook, line, and sinker, then yes, you're like, okay, eventually it's going to stop if I keep doing this. But no, it's what's causing it.
Yes. And then she's sitting there. It's so heartbreaking. Because she's probably like early 40s now. And she's like, I tell myself, like, it's okay that I don't have kids. You know, it's not a big deal. And she's like crying saying it. And she's like, she spent basically all her childbearing years just getting raped by this dude for 10 years.
Wow.
And she talks about like she feels bad for him still, and like she knows that's so wrong, but like it's the human side of her, and you know, it was her life for so long, it was home for so long, it's hard to feel at home somewhere else.
Wow.
And so then it jumps into Priscilla and Melanie seeing 7M management and being like, Melanie was like, the first thing I thought when I saw his name was, no fucking way he's still doing it. Because now this is basically round 2 of all these 20-something 7M dancers. And they introduce another set of sisters. So these sisters are Miranda Derrick, formerly Miranda Willis, I think it was. Hang on.
I'm gonna look her up. So this girl's on TikTok now?
Wilkins. So the Wilkins sisters are like, so now cut to like 2015, 2016. The Wilkins sisters, if you look them up, they were like super popular dancers on TikTok. And the one sister is talking about how, you know, they danced from the time that they were children, and basically she was the younger sister and she followed her older sister, Melanie Wilkins, into, or no, I'm sorry, yeah, Melanie, it's Melanie and Miranda Wilkins.
Okay, yep,
so,
got them. I got them. Here we go.
Front, side, swipe and hit the whoa. Throw it back into a body roll. No, elbow throw, gotta go. Hit the row, hit the flow, take it slow.
So Melanie follows her sister to LA to like be a dancer. And basically she finds out this girl meets Robert, and you know, she wants to do what her sister's doing, and she's like, I remember we went to dinner at this guy Robert's house because I'm like, what is this? And you know, her sister Miranda's like, oh, it's cool, we just read the Bible, like it's amazing. And she was like, I go to dinner, and she describes like basically the table is tense and quiet as everyone waits for Robert, and they're sitting there reading the Bible. And she had said something, Melanie, and she was like, everybody got up and we were all holding hands, and Robert was in the middle of the circle, and they're basically just all like praying for Melanie. And she was like, it felt weird, but I'm like, well, my sister's doing it, everybody else is doing it, like this must be, I don't know, I guess people do this. This is like a practice of faith. And then the breaking point for her was she was on the way to take a friend to the airport, and she got a call from Robert Shin's sister being like, you need to get an Uber for your friend because Robert needs to see you right now. And she was like, I've never had any member of a church like tell me I need to stop what I'm doing and go be there right now. And she's like, no, I'm not.
No, thank you.
I'm not doing that. I'm going to the airport. And she was like, after that, like I knew I was done. And then so Miranda stays in, and she stops contacting her sister. So these girls who literally talk every single day, no Christmas, no Thanksgiving, 2 birthdays have gone by, she's not heard from her sister, and they were living together. And she was like, the biggest thing that happened, which is what kind of started this, is their grandfather died, who was like very, very close to both the girls. And they were gonna both leave the house they were living in together in LA and go home for the funeral. And so Melanie's like, okay, let's go. And like 30 minutes before they're supposed to leave for the airport, Miranda's like, I think I have COVID. Like I can't go. And she's like, just put a mask on. Like, let's go. And she's like, no, I can't. And she's like, Miranda, this is literally Pop. Like, we have to go honor his life. And Miranda's just like crying, saying, I can't. And then she gets on the plane and she's like texting her more and she's like, I have to see. And she's like, why do you need to ask someone permission to bury your grandfather?
Yeah.
So her parents,
especially like
with her,
quote unquote like your manager, let's say, like your manager / preacher.
Right. And so she doesn't come. And after that, like, basically Miranda doesn't come back. And Melanie is just heartbroken, describing, like, showing up to do, like, collab dances and, like, record content. People are like, where's your sister? Because they have, like, all these duet dances. And she's like, oh, she's sick today. She couldn't make it today. And she's like, it was so hard. She's just totally breaking down crying. And, you know, people, of course, on TikTok are like, maybe her family was toxic. Maybe she wants to do her own thing. La, 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 la.
Of course.
And, like, the one thing everyone repeats that's in this cult is Robert used to say, you have to die to yourself. So you have to die to your family if you want to save your family.
That makes,
you have to die to everything that you care about.
Yeah, of course.
Cut them off.
Soup's logical.
So basically, if you really want to save your family, you have to die to them. Which, I just want to say, from a spiritual standpoint, death is Satan. That is the entire point of the Bible. God is everlasting life. Satan is death. So the entire idea of 7M, if you're watching this, the entire idea of God wanting you to die, completely fabricated. You can't find a single Bible verse that's like, God wants you to die. He doesn't in any way. He wants to give you life, rest, and it's like, it's just so twisted. You have to die to yourself.
And I also feel like, too, is like, to that point, it's like the Bible and faith in general and all of that, like, it is based on growing your family, connecting with your family, growing your community, like, togetherness. Like, so, like, it's always wild to me when, like, and it feels like a lot of these cults and just, like, bad people in general, like, they know the move is to, like, isolate you, and they use your faith somehow to isolate you, and it's like, you need to realize, to your point, not only is it just, like, God is always life, but God is always connection with other people. Like, it's never, you shouldn't have a family. Like, you shouldn't be, you should cut off the people that are closest to you. Like, no, sorry, 7M, if you're...
Yeah. And they, in this documentary, this Netflix documentary, they play audio clips from the service, and, like, when someone lands a commercial or something, he brings it up. He brags about the person. And so the dancers talk about how they're like, I wanted my name to be called. Mm-hmm. You want this guy's approval. Yeah. And so they're all just, like... doing the absolute most.
What's interesting to me is that about this, like, what stuck out to me when you were talking about the second, like, sisters, is that the Wilkins. So it's just interesting to me how it's kind of like the nature versus nurture, and how, like, clearly there is just something in certain people, because, like, technically these girls in both of these situations were raised in a very similar fashion in the same household. Like, they were tight sisters, both of them, and then one has the ability to be like, this ain't it, and the other one is like, I just can't leave. Yeah. And it's like, that's just like crazy, because these people biologically, they're more similar than strangers off the street. Yes. And they have like the same upbringing. So you would assume they have the same like wounds and trauma and just like, like definitions of like love and like whatever. But it's like crazy how one person is like, this is not kosher. And then the other one's like, yep, I will forego every other relationship I've ever had to like submit to this. Like, it's wild.
Yeah. And so, what's her name? Miranda. Or Melanie. Melanie is the one who got out. She talks about, like, she watches her sister get engaged on, like, a TikTok. And she doesn't know this guy. She's never met him. And even, like, symbolically, they both had, like, long brown hair for the longest time. Their whole lives. Every picture. And now Melanie's hair is like a super short bob, and it's really blonde. And she's like, I didn't even recognize her. And so some of the 7M dancers who were involved in the 7M cult but have left are James Derrick, known as B-Dash, Nick Reno, dancing name Reno, and Aubrey Fisher Green and Kevin Davis, known as Concrete, also Kalia Gray and Kylie Douglas. So most of them are in this documentary just talking about it. And like the one girl, I think it was Kaylee Gray or Kylie Douglas, I'm not sure who, but she talks about like she was talking about back pain, and Robert's like, oh, I'll crack your back. And he takes her outside, and she's like, I don't know how else to say this other than it didn't feel like he was trying to crack my back. It felt like he was trying to, and she's kind of hesitating, looking for the words, and then she's like, feel my whole body. And you're just like,
what?
Ew. So
where is this guy now? Like, where? I need to know. Please tell me this guy's fucking locked up somewhere, having his skin like peeled off with an apple peeler.
Not yet. So they record, it's on camera in the documentary, of the Lee sisters serving him with a
And those are the
So
originals.
basically-
Those are the first. Okay.
Yes. So Priscilla is like, that's it. I'm going to sue this guy. Somebody tried to sue him from Shekinah Church before in the 90s and lost.
Okay.
And
Well, the 90s was a different
now
place,
she's
yeah.
trying again. Different time and place. The parents of Miranda and the parents of Nick Reno are honest on it. They're sitting around a table, and Melanie is there too, and she's talking about like what are their options, and they're like, can't we just go like, like basically take drastic measures? And she's like, typically when people like are coming in from the outside or like take legal action, everyone describes in a cult that it gets so much worse. The violence gets worse, the control gets worse, the coercion gets worse, it often becomes sexual, all this stuff. And Priscilla ends up going to meet with the Wilkinsons also, and is like literally saying like, your daughter is not safe. Like, she's not safe. So she's saying like, it's really hard to put a cult leader in prison because it's not illegal to have a cult. It's not illegal to have a following. It's not illegal to give a bunch of your money to someone.
Yeah.
So you have to find like overt criminal activity
Yeah.
that is within the cult. And so Priscilla's like, okay, I'm going to sue him for, it's not fraud. I forget the actual, fraud. Okay. So this is where we're at now. So he denies these allegations. They basically like, the Lee sisters have their friends like follow him into a restaurant. They literally like are outside Shekinah Church. And they have people on like all the streets he could turn on. And they're like, whoever her name, like, he's turning down your street, go. And they all have a copy of the papers to serve him. They go into a restaurant and they're like, you've been served. And he's like, thank you. Like, just like a fucking cult leader. And asshole. And so they serve him. But before she could serve him, he sued her. He found out she was getting ready to sue him somehow and fucking sued her for attempted defamation of character. Yep.
Wow.
So she's like, that wasn't super surprising. So according to CNN, and this is from a Time News article from May 29th, 2024. So he denies the charges. He filed a defamation lawsuit against the church members, and then 3 of the former 7M dancers joined the Lee sisters in, quote, a cross complaint with the former church members against Shin, his wife, their entities, and other affiliated individuals. In the suit, they accused the defendants of, quote, fraud, forced labor, and human trafficking, as well as Robert specifically of sexual battery. The suit is ongoing. It's going to go to trial in 2025, July. So in a few months, it's going down. In the meantime, Miranda, weirdly now, Robert changed his whole tune. You don't have to die to your family now. It's too much trouble. Literally, there's audio of him saying something like this in the documentary. What gets us in trouble trying to cut off our families to save them? So we just need to be in their lives. And so, like, basically every Christmas, every birthday, every Thanksgiving, Miranda comes over to the house, to her family's house. Her sister describes, like, seeing her, and you know, she's like, hi, oh my god, and she's like, we're wearing matching pajamas on Christmas, but it's just for content. Like, she's there being nicey nice with her husband, I guess. Her mom's like, I don't even know if they're legally married. She shows up with this guy, and they have Christmas, and everything is posted on her TikTok, on her Instagram, like, look, my family is fine, we're fine, but like, there is no other relationship.
Yeah.
And Priscilla is telling the parents, like, this is Robert's control. So now that he knows you're filing a suit, as long as it looks like everybody gets along with their families, you'll be happy because now you have attention from Miranda and you won't press any more charges.
Yeah.
So, like, really what you need to do is cut her out of your life. But, like, her mom can't do it. She's just like, I mean, after hearing what happened to frickin' Melissa Lee, or whatever her name, where she's like in a dungeon for 10 years, she's like, I can't. And then Miranda talks about, like, she actually did, like, get engaged to someone she really loves, and she's like crying about, like, I want my sister to be my maid of honor, but like I don't want my sister to be my maid of honor because it's just going to be used for TikTok and being like, look, we get along, we're sisters, it's all good now. And she's like, I don't know what to do. Like, when I look back on this day, am I going to regret it? It's just so sad. And so, yeah, that is Robert Shin and the 7M cult.
I gotta look this guy up. I gotta look up Robert. How do you spell Shin?
Shinn.
I mean, this is just crazy because it's like...
Sorry, real quick. How the lawsuit started and 7M members started leaving who were already suspicious is that after they tried going to Miranda's house, calling Miranda, she ends up blocking her whole family, like, off of everything. And Melanie, there's a Melanie in each of the sister groups. So, okay. Melanie describes she couldn't text her sister. She couldn't, like, DM her. So she comments on her sister's dancing post being like, happy birthday. I hope you have the best day. And she's like, 2 seconds after I post that comment, the comment got deleted. I was blocked, and so were my parents. And so...
I hate to say it, but I just Googled, like, Robert Shin, and then obviously, like, Miranda pops up here. She's the one that's still in it, right? Yeah. And she looks like the fucking devil. Like, this girl does not... She's beautiful, but she is ugly. I don't know how else to describe it. Like, physically, blue eyes, symmetrical face, like, fit. She's got, like, a wet look hair going on here. Yeah. She should be stunning me with her beauty. Yeah. And I feel like I can feel the bleakness just oozing out of her soul. Yeah. Also, this thing, Vanity Fair article, so she spoke with Vanity Fair, and she said, in the wake of Netflix docuseries Dancing for the Devil, the 7M has released a statement calling the documentary a slanderous work of fiction and threatened to pursue all legal remedies available to stop the spread of salacious lies. Sir, like, no. I'm sorry.
Okay, Miranda, like, show us your bank statements.
Just looking at this girl, it's like... You are selling your soul to the fucking devil. Yeah. And, like, it's crazy because I mean, obviously I feel like we've always known that, like, people will do anything in Hollywood to, like, get ahead. And, like, that's why so many terrible things have happened in Hollywood, because greed is, for real, the devil. But, like, I never thought about how, like, things like this, like TikTok sensations, would just be, like, the next way that people would be able to, like, abuse people and manipulate them and, like, get what they want from them.
Yeah.
So it's just like...
Dreams. Kids, and they're like, it's so hard to be your own producer, hair, makeup, you know, the background, the editing. And she's like, Robert had everything. He had a team to be like, I'll record you. We have settings. Do it in my giant $1 million house. Yeah.
And it's like you show up as, like, a kid with talent and nothing. And then, like, it makes me think of when they did the documentary about the guy that did Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. I can't think of his name. Lou Pearlman. And in the one part, like, Lance is talking about how, like, they had worked their asses off for, like, 2 years. Like, they had been touring, they'd been doing all this crazy stuff. And, like, obviously, like, they're taking private jets, they're going out to dinner, they're doing all these things that, like, Lou Pearlman, who had amassed money at that point, was, like, paying for them. And then it was, like, they were supposed to get their first big check because, like, they got their album was released, they, like, sold whatever, and they're all thinking that they're going to be making bank. And it was, like, something crazy. It was, like, $10,000. And, like, they all just were, like, what? Like, I just worked my ass off from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. for, like, all these years. And basically it was because all of those things that they were doing, in obviously the contracts that they had signed, like, all the meals that they were thinking that, like, Lou is paying for, and, like, these excuse me, and, like, these private jets and everything, that was all coming out, that was all going to come out of the profits that they made. So, like, basically they just, like, slaved away for 2 years to make $10,000. And, like, he literally talks about how, like, he almost started, like, crying when he opened up the check because they were just like, but, like, that, and it just makes me think of that. So, like, you're this kid, you show up in Hollywood. Now it's not even Hollywood. You just show up in LA because some guy's got, like, a mansion and he knows the right people to get you, like, a couple million, like, TikTok followers, which is so much easier to do than, like, a blockbuster film or an album, you know? And, like, and then you're just, like, indebted to him, and you're a kid, you don't know any better, and the next thing you know,
they're like, easy.
You're in a sex dungeon for 10 fucking years.
Yeah, he's like, they're like, all I had to do was show up, and he would give us the music, give us the wardrobe, give us the background, give us the production crew. So we're just dancing, making content. It was like some of the best times of my life at first. You know, it was great. Yeah. And then it becomes like, well, you're going to leave your family. And the one girl's like, this is so emotional because I have people I love who are still there. And, like, I feel conflicted because I know, like, I'm hurting their feelings by talking about this guy, but, like, he's not a good person. And, you know, of course, every dancer knows another dancer, so he's like, bring your friends, come to church. And it's like, in come the 22-year-olds.
That's the real messed up part. Like, the religion aspect of it just takes it to a whole new level.
It's so messed up. And so basically, after they can't reach Miranda, they go on Instagram Live. They go on Miranda's Instagram Live, and they post a 40-minute live, basically just calling out, like, this is what happened. This is who we used to be. She releases a statement. A lot of you have been asking where my sister is at first, and she's like, she just decided she wants to leave the Wilkinson Sisters brand for now, and da-da-da, and it's all fine and friendly. And then the next one she does is basically like, that's not really what's happening. This is what's happening. And then after that video comes out, it gets back to the Lee sisters. All the 7M people who are, like, already on the fence are like, I'm out of here. Like, I'm done. And then they basically describe, like, 7M splits. There's the people who leave and the people who stay. And she's just dancing with the devil. Literally. Dying to herself. And the one dancer who left was saying that, like, Miranda would frequently cry about wanting to see her family. But was like, I can't. I have to save them.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like if there's anything to take away from this, it's just, like, you like, I think, like you said, like, especially when it comes to a religious situation, like, it should never make you feel bad. It should just never make you feel bad. Whether it's faith, whether it's a job opportunity, whether it's something that you work for your whole life, like, if you feel like you need to, what's the term I'm looking for? Like if you're, like, being, like, a traitor or, like,
betrayal?
I don't know. Yes, like, if you feel like you need to betray yourself, then it's not it. Like, well, I don't know what else to say.
Bridget, don't you want to save your family? Don't talk to them.
Yeah. And that's one of my favorite Buddhist quotes, right? That's one of my favorite Buddhist, like, teachings, is that there was, like, this one teacher, and he was, like, basically he, you know, was telling everyone about how, you know, like, discipline and, like, following the rules is, like, key, but that how also, like, you need to make sure that, you know, everything is right within yourself. And so then he eventually tells them to go kill someone. And he doesn't let them go, obviously, but a lot of the students just blindly are like, okay, let's go. And he's like, you're missing the lesson here. And, like, only a few of them were like, I can't do this. This doesn't sit right with me. Even though you're my leader and I'm following you, like, I know that this is not what I'm supposed to do. So I just feel like that's, like, looking within yourself and like not betraying yourself is like the only way that you're gonna make it through all these fucking snakes in the grass, because this is crazy.
It's crazy. It's so crazy. And it's like, this guy is shameless. He just countersues. And it's
No, I really can't wait to see what happens. I hope this is gonna end up being like an R. Kelly situation, you know, where like once the floodgates open, it is just like people start coming out, they get enough evidence. Because I feel like the one chick, like, I mean, she was SA'd for 10 years, so that has to be.
Oh, and it's so messed up because the police are like, if we can get 3 to 4 people to come forward with sexual assault, we'll go get this guy right now. They have it recorded, the audio of a cop being like, we'll go get him right now, to the one sister. So like 3 people go in, and the one person that they need to like make it 3 is Melanie Lee, who's like the most like, I don't want to go sit down. They do a really good job of detailing what it's like for a victim. She's like, I don't want to go to a police station, get whoever's available to sit in a room while they rotate 3-4 officers out and just, okay, what happened to you? And I'm just going to tell you. Like, I can't even sit with myself alone.
Yeah.
And
I
so
mean, they
like,
do need to work on that type. Like, I get that there's like certain things they have to do like legally to take the statements, but also like they could use a little more sensitivity training in that department.
And so, well, and even given that, she decides in the documentary, because the whole time you're like, come on, Melanie, you're the last link. She does it. She goes in.
Great.
She says everything.
Hey, Melanie.
They got her on camera at the front desk being like, I was raped and like assaulted. And she's like, oh, okay, we'll take you to the back, whatever. Nothing happens. They don't go arrest him. Nobody does anything. And they're like, I thought and like the investigators like saying like, yeah, one's not enough. And they're like, this is crazy. And it's like, yeah, it's crazy. You literally have to be like, we need you to find 4 people like that are victims of this man, or else your word against his. Like, truly, like, that's what it is without DNA evidence. So the one investigator's like, it's not that we don't believe one person, but like, if we don't have DNA, we need enough people that it's overwhelming witness testimony.
Yeah.
And so, so July 2025, we're going to trial.
We're going to trial. We were going to keep you guys updated on this because we're not letting this slide. The Best Friend Files are on the motherfucking case.
We're on it. Robert Shin, fuck you.
We're coming for you, Robert.
Death from God, you moron. Put a scripture up, Robert. Let's hear it. Call me directly. 716. Just kidding.
All right. Well, I have to head out. So it was a pleasure chatting with you yet again.
As always.
And we will see you guys in the next one.
Bye-bye.